All right, this is Module 1, Lesson 3. We're going to talk about representing proportional relationships with equations. So let's talk about what we've already learned here. We have proportional relationships. These are going to have a constant ratio or unit rate. We've talked a lot about in the last couple lessons how to find unit rate. Constant means they are going to have the same unit rates. So if they have the same unit rates, that means they are proportional. The constant ratio, we're going to call that y over x. That's how you find a unit rate. I mentioned that yesterday in class. We also are giving this another name. So unit rate is also called a constant of proportionality. We have an abbreviation for that. We call that K. Okay, it's the same thing as a unit rate. So how could we use what we know about the constant of proportionality to write an equation? Well, let's think about this. We know we're going to find the unit rate or the constant of proportionality K by doing y divided by x. That's what we learned in this sentence. Y divided by x is the unit rate, which is also the constant of proportionality. Now, I'm going to solve this for you, okay, by multiplying both sides by x. Okay, if I do that, I get K times x. These cancel out and you're left with just y. Now, we also like to write that as y equals kx. All I did was switch the order on that. So, two things we have to know. K is equal to y over x. This is called the constant of proportionality. So this is constant of proportionality, really important to know. We're going to divide y by x to find the unit rate. The equation that we need is y equals kx. Now, whether you understood how I got that or not, it doesn't matter. You just got to make sure you know it. All right, so let's look at example 1. Casey and her 3 friends attend a movie. Total cost was $28. What is the cost per ticket? That's asking us to find the unit rate. Cost divided by tickets. So here's my label for my unit rates. I know the cost was $28 and she's buying 4 tickets. Don't forget to add her into this. So 28 divided by 4 would be 7, and that's dollars per ticket. So the unit rate is found by dividing. Now, to write the equation, remember, go back up top. We learned that the equation is y equals kx. Well, we know k. We just found k. So k is 7. So my equation is y equals 7x. All right, I'm going to have you try exercise 1 on your own. So pause this video, check it out, and then when you're done, just hit play. Make sure you have the right answers. All right, so we have the cost per apple. So let me make my label, cost per apple. So the cost for the apples is $5. There are 4 apples. If you want to take your calculator and divide that, you get 1.25, and that's dollars per apple. So that's your unit rate, that's your K. So to write the equation, remember it's y equals kx. The K is 1.25. Keep your y and x the same, so there's your equation. All right, let's go to the next page. Let's go to example 2. It says, do we have enough gas to make it to the gas station? It says your mother has accelerated onto the interstate beginning a long road trip, and you notice how the fuel light is on, indicating that there is half a gallon left in the gas tank. The nearest gas station, 26 miles away. So your mother keeps a log where she records the mileage and the number of gallons purchased each time she fills up the tank. So use the information in the table to determine whether you'll make it to the gas station before you run out. You know that you can determine the amount of gas that her car consumes in a particular number of miles. Then you can determine whether or not she'll make it to the next gas station. So let's take a look at this chart. Now, yesterday I reminded you that gallons, the first column is always your X column. Your Y column is always your second, your Y column is always your second column. So when it says to find the constant of proportionality, remember that's the same thing as your unit rate, or K. So the formula for K is K equals Y over X. And I'm finding Y, which is your mileage, over X, which is your gallons. So pick any point. Say you pick the first pair. Your mileage is 224. Your gas is 8, your gallons. So now you're going to divide and you get 28. So what that means, because it says to explain what this means that she can drive 28 miles for every 1 gallon of gas. So the gallons is on the bottom. That's where your 1 goes. So she can drive 28 for every 1. Now, part B says, let's write an equation. Now, remember, this is your equation, Y equals KX. K stands for your constant of proportionality, which we just found to be 28. So your equation is Y equals 28X. Part C, knowing that there is half a gallon left in the gas tank when the light comes on, will she make it to the nearest gas station? Well, 28 is for a full gallon, right? So half of 28 is 14. So she is going to make it 14 miles. Now the gas station is 26 miles away. So no, she will not make it because she only has 14 miles to go. Now it says using this equation found in part B, determine how far your mother can drive on 18 gallons of gas. Now here's your equation that they want you to use. And I'm going to refer back up to this chart. Y is your mileage, X is your gallons. So if we know the gallons, that's your X value. You're going to plug it in for X. You're going to take your calculator. You're going to multiply 28 times 18. And you get 504 miles. Now, the last part says using this equation, this constant of proportionality, how many gallons of gas would you need to travel? 750 miles. So same equation, Y equals 28X. This time they give you the mileage. Remember, mileage is your Y value. So we're going to put 750 in for Y. And we're going to solve for X. Now, remember to do that, we want to get X by itself. So we're going to divide. So when I divide that in the calculator, I get 26 and 11/14 of a gallon. Good thing we have a calculator. All right, next page. Example 3 says that Andrea is a street artist in New Orleans. She draws caricatures, cartoon-like portraits of tourists. People have their portrait drawn and then come back later to pick it up. The graph below shows the relationship between the number of portraits she draws and the amount of time in hours she needs to draw the portrait. So part A says write several ordered pairs from the graph and explain what that ordered pair means. So let's look on the graph. We want a nice, neat point where it crosses. So here's one right here. That's the point 2, 3. The 2 represents how long she spends drawing, and the 3 represents how many she draws. So she takes 2 hours to draw 3 portraits. All right, let's look for another point. Here's another one where they cross nicely. So this one is 4, 6, which means she takes 4 hours to draw 6 portraits. All right, I think there's one more point right here we can use. 6, 9, which takes 6 hours to draw 9 portraits. Okay, so determine the constant of proportionality and explain what it means in this situation. So first of all, when you have a point, it's always X comma Y because the X is the bottom. The Y is your axis that goes up like this. So remember to find the constant of proportionality, you can do Y divided by X. If you want your labels, the Y labels are the number of portraits. The X value is the time or the hours. Okay, so let's take the first point. Our Y value is 3. Our X value is 2. Okay, so that's your constant of proportionality. If you want to go further, you can come up with the equation. Y equals 3/2 X. All right, we could do this again with the second point, Y over X. So this would be 6 over 4. Now 6 over 4 reduces to 3 over 2. So the equation would be Y equals 3/2 X. Notice that they are the same because they are it is a constant proportional relationship. All right, so this is asking for the constant of proportionality, which is 3/2. So that means that Andrea can draw, we'll say 1.5 instead of 3/2 portraits, so 1.5 portraits for every 1 hour. Now, it says write several equations that would relate this. I started to do that in part B. So I used the first 2 points. Let's just do the last point. The last point is Y over X. My Y value is 9. My X value is 6, which reduces to 3/2. So your equation is Y equals 3 over 2 X. Let me show you that. All right, so on the next page, you have your problem set. Go ahead and try that out for homework tonight.